Amid an unprecedented health crisis that has killed more than 400 Houstonians and infected thousands of our family, friends, and neighbors, today I'm announcing a second rental assistance package to help those who lost their jobs and are struggling financially because of COVID-19. The city is doing what it can to address an overwhelming need, and it is an overwhelming need for rental assistance. In May, the city offered the first rental assistance package of $15 million in CARES Act money, which assisted nearly 13,000 families. And I want to thank the members of City Council for joining in and supporting that effort. Since the start of the COVID pandemic, City Council has approved more than $26 million in funding specifically for COVID housing response, with another $30 million homeless funds announced and in the process of being approved. This time, today, the City of Houston is creating a $19 million rent relief package. Of that amount, $15 million will come from the city's allotment of CARES Act funding, and $4 million donated by private sources, and I will add $4 million that have been raised in the last 36 hours, which will add to that $15 million. I want to give a huge thank you to the Houston Endowment. $2 million will come from the Houston Endowment. $1 million will come from the Greater Houston COVID-19 Response Recovery Fund, and $1 million will come from the Kinder Foundation. I want to thank Houston Endowment, the Greater Houston COVID-19 Recovery Fund, and the Kinder Foundation for their generous support. Included in the $19 million total, money will be set aside for Lone Star Legal Aid. And Donna will be speaking in terms of what they are doing. But I want to thank Lone Star Legal Aid for its continuous work, not just going forward, but what it has done in the past. And so money will be going there. And for those who need assistance but do not qualify for CARES Act dollars. In the previous allotment of 15, there were many people who simply were not eligible and did not qualify. But the dollars that are coming outside of the 15 from the city of Houston will be able to provide some support to that population. Our objective is to help the most vulnerable. Our priority is to ensure quick assistance to help families avoid evictions, working alongside landlords willing to provide flexibility and compassion to keep their tenants housed. The rental assistance will not be allocated on a first-come, first-served basis, but rather we intend to provide a lifeline to those facing immediate eviction with the greatest need, and we will work through that process over the next few days. I also want to thank the Houston Apartment Association for its partnership claim and voluntarily agreeing to work with tenants to provide a grace period for those who may have few options. Like our first rental assistance package announced in May, Baker Ripley will administer the program working with landlords. For renters, this option removes the debt obligation instead of putting them further in debt with a moratorium that only deepens the financial hole. And let me repeat that. What we are attempting to do is not to place renters in a deeper hole, but to remove the liability of many of them. I also thank Lone Star Legal Aid, which we intend to allocate funding to provide legal and educational assistance so they can help tenants to better understand their rights and responsibilities. Our announcement today will make a difference in the lives of thousands of Houston families, parents and children, and career professionals, and who may have lost their jobs during the public health crisis through no fault of their own. We know we must do everything we can, but we also realize that without significant rental assistance funds from Congress, our efforts and the above funding will not nearly be enough. The need is great, and I am calling on the state of Texas and the federal government to step up and help us. Cities cannot do this alone. We cannot. The need is too great. This is a global pandemic. It's a global pandemic. And today, People are running out of the protections that were previously afforded by Congress. And tomorrow starts a new month. And people are concerned, and they are scared, and they are desperate. And they are having to deal with the stress and the anxiety. And so we are going to do our part. And I will readily admit it won't meet every need, but we're going to do our part with what we have. But Congress, if you are listening, Mr. President, if you are listening, people need your help, and they need your help now. To the state of Texas, cities and counties are not the only ones who receive CARES funding. The state of Texas received CARES funding. And the people in the city of Houston are not just Houstonians. They are Texans. They are Texans. They need your help. When it comes to the heavy lifting, it should not be left to local governments alone. And so I am pleading with Congress, with the president, with our state officials to join us in providing additional assistance and support to people who need our help the very most. And if we work together, then I believe we can benefit a lot of families, and especially our children. Let me bring up Clay Hicks with the Houston Apartment Association. Clay.
Thank you. Amazing, Mayor Turner. Thank you. My name's Clay Hicks. I'm the president of TDC Management at the Dinnerstein Companies and also this year's president of the Houston Apartment Association. And as a nonprofit trade association, we represent thousands of people across the city who work in the apartment industry, providing housing for more than 1 million Houston area residents. Since this pandemic began, our members have deferred millions of dollars in rent and waived millions of dollars in late fees for those who have been affected by COVID to keep residents in their homes. As you remember, HA and its members started a rental assistance fund back in April with the Alliance of Community Assistance Ministries to show our support of the programs Mayor Turner, the city, and county have been able to provide. But those contributions and deferrals have put a huge strain on the small business owners who operate nearly half of Houston's apartments. And we believe rental assistance is the best way to remedy the stress being put on both housing providers and residents. We all know there are large expenses and overhead to provide housing across our great city, and without the monthly rental income, the landlords and apartment properties can't employ and maintain the thousands of workers that keep our properties running, including the maintenance teams who become so vital during this time, taking care of the properties, cleaning and disinfecting daily while everyone stays at home. We won't be able to afford the utilities or pay the property taxes that keep our police officers on patrol, our firefighters responding, and our public schools operating if we don't have the rental income coming in. So on behalf of the Houston Apartment Association and all the essential workers who operate and maintain apartments, I want to thank Mayor Turner and Houston City Council for their leadership during this difficult time and for their foresight in considering additional rental assistance, which will be critical in keeping Houston renters in their homes. Thank you.
Thanks, Clay. Now let me bring on Donna Carney. It's spelled D-A-N-A. I think her parents kind of misspelled it, but the pronunciation is Donna with Lone Star Legal Aid. Donna.
Thank you. My name is Donna Carney, and I am the managing attorney for a right to counsel eviction pilot at Lone Star Legal Aid. I want to thank the mayor. I'm sorry, I'm struggling here with my mask and speaking at the same time. I need to thank the mayor and city council because this is certainly a very moving time and an overwhelming time for the city. We sit in a very unique perch at Lone Star Legal Aid, representing tenants when they are faced that moment that they are about to lose their housing. And we recognize the commitment from the city, and we're very appreciative for all of that dedication from the City of Houston. Lone Star Legal Aid has been dedicated to disaster response in hurricanes, in floods, and now in pandemics. Lone Star Legal Aid has received millions of dollars in federal, state, city, and local grants over many years to provide lawyers with help so that we can help those who can least help themselves with legal issues following such disasters. And in our commitment to help tenants now through this pandemic, Lone Star Legal Aid is launching an eviction right to counsel along with a coalition of other legal services providers in the City of Houston. We are hopeful that this will provide tenants an opportunity to enjoy that same access to the courtroom that so many others have who can afford counsel, but in this case cannot. And so we're very pleased with that generous ability of the city to provide funding, and cannot thank you enough.
We certainly want tenants to understand their rights and not only provide them with education, but provide them with the legal representation that they need. And we tend to be a critical partner of working with a Lone Star Legal Aid that does some incredible work. So thank you. Let me also call on now Councilmember Tiffany Thomas, who heads the Housing Committee and is very instrumental in these programs. Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor, and to my colleagues and the rest of the administration that's joining today. When the coronavirus first hit, housing was one of the first items that council started discussing with the mayor and his administration. We wanted to make sure that we combat this virus by keeping people in place. And we can't keep people in place when they are on the verge of being evicted out of their homes. We demonstrated with the first round our best effort to keep people safe and stable during this time. And as the mayor eloquently shared, it is nearly not enough. There might be I think four of my colleagues are joining me today, but we represent the complete horseshoe. And I think it's very important for the community to understand that advocating and discussing and keeping housing as a priority does not start or stop at the horseshoe. We have had a series of conversations with the mayor, his administration, and ourselves about what we could do to make sure that our residents can stay in their home. I want to also include that even if you are renting a single family home, if you have a lease, you do qualify for this program. And we want to make sure that all Houstonians, whatever their housing option is, that they have an opportunity to preserve this. And I also want to say that this is a great example of how private industry, philanthropy, the city government, and our nonprofit community works together to make sure Houstonians, our very resilient Houstonians, can stay in place. So thank you again for us moving forward, and we will continue to have discussions about how we roll out the program.
And let me also add that it's also important, and I don't want to leave out our justice of the peace, because they are critical partners in this process. And I'm asking them again to be very sensitive, as I know many of them are, to the needs of people who have been impacted specifically by COVID-19. Okay, specifically by COVID-19. And so they can help. There are some of the JPs who have said that they will not be engaged in eviction proceedings through the month of August. I want to thank them for that. But I also want to ask others, JPs, Justice of the Peace, to also be sensitive to that. This is a collective effort. It takes all of us working on behalf of the people in our community. And same thing. Our school board, our superintendents and school boards, they can be effective, meaningful advocates in this process as well to help to stabilize families. So if we all work together, I think we can make some meaningful gains. Let me bring up now Tom Mccaslin, the Director of Housing and Community Development. Tom.
Thank you, Mayor, and I think you and the other speakers have said just about everything that needs to be said. Let me just say thank you to Baker Ripley, who's been a terrific partner through the first phase, Claudia Aguirre and Renee Solis, who without them, this would not have happened in phase one, and we will rely on them heavily in Phase 2, and then to all of our nonprofit partners who sit with the tenants and bear witness to their pain during this period of time. We know that it's tough to be there, and we know that you're taking on a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, so we thank you for that as we move forward. And then, Mayor, I just want to say that we are looking forward to learning lessons from the first phase as well as learning best practices from around the state. And we look forward to having the conversation with the advocacy groups to make sure that as we move forward, we are getting the most impact for the dollars that we spend. Looking forward to the second phase as we do what we can at the city and wait for the federal and state government to do their part as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And let me also say that as it relates to the fund today is $19 million. That's where we are today. There are a number of calls that I have out, and I am hoping that this fund will grow between now and council members and Wednesday. The goal is to try to get this fund up anywhere between $20 and $25 million. So certainly for those individuals who understand the seriousness and the depth of the situation and the need that exists, I would ask you to also join and contribute. The dollars are all going to Baker Ripley that will be the implementers of this program. These are not coming to the city of Houston. Even the city of Houston's dollars will be headed over to Baker Ripley. And so for those who want to contribute, businesses, corporations, you name it, to get this fund up beyond $19 million to meet the critical need that exists within our community, let me ask that you give us a call. Quite frankly, I got your name. I know where you are. I'll be calling you myself. So please take my call. It'll be a no caller ID ring. Now let me bring up Councilmember Evan Shabazz, who has also been a leading advocate, who calls me late at night on a daily basis in reference to this program, but truly has been a champion of providing winter relief. Councilmember Shabazz.
Thank you so much, Mayor, and I am just so greatly appreciative for the dollars that are coming to the community. We certainly recognize that more is needed, and the Mayor put out an eloquent plea that I hope that people will listen to and adhere to. And so I'm so very, very glad that, especially with school starting, we need to be mindful that homeless children will have a very difficult time accessing virtual learning if they do not have a home. We also know that this disease, this virus, can be exacerbated when people are homeless. And so we need as much help as we can. And I'm so very thankful for the leadership of the chair of the Housing Committee, Councilmember Tiffany Thomas, and certainly the mayor. He's been so gracious. He takes my texts all time of the night, and I really appreciate it. But the most important thing is that the people of Houston will have another day, another month to live in hopefully safe accommodations. And we will continue to push forward to try to provide as much as we can. And I want the people out there to know that we are listening. We are listening, and we are sensitive, and we are working towards everything we can to give you as much relief in a safe environment. And I thank you so very much, Mayor.
And Councilmember Cisneros.
Thank you, Mayor. I think most of everything that needed to be said has been said, and I just wanted to add my gratitude to this program. We know it's not enough. We know it's not enough, and it's a temporary thing. We must have help from the federal government, from the state government. One of the things that my office is doing is we've been, just today, we sent out letters to apartment owners. I think we sent 40 letters out to apartment owners and managers, asking them to also join us in a letter writing campaign, to our congressional representatives. And we've provided templates that they can also share with their tenants, because I think the more that those leaders hear from us, the more powerful our voice will be. And we've already gotten commitments from some responses back from some congressional leadership saying, yes, they agree, but I think it arms them. It gives them more to stand on and more to fight with. So I hope that, that we'll get a good response, and that people will take the letter writing campaign seriously, because truly, our voices matter, and they need to be heard. Thank you very much.
Councilman Pollard, you good?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to my colleagues. This is a great day. We've been asking for rental relief for some time. Several months ago, my colleague Tiffany Thomas and I wrote the mayor a letter regarding this issue, and we were working through the first phase to get out the initial $15 million, and now we're in phase 2. Like Director Mccaslin says, we'll learn a lot from the first phase and hopefully make this round even more efficient. I represent District J. Over 85% of the residents in my district live in apartments. And I see firsthand how the coronavirus has impacted their lives. And so this relief fund is a great next step to make sure that they are remaining in their homes and under a roof, because we understand if they're not able to stay under their roof, what are they going to do? They're going to have to go and stay with their neighbors or their friends in another apartment complex, and what's going to happen? They're not going to be able to socially distance. If they're not able to socially distance, then the community spread will increase. And so it will have a trickle-down effect. So thank you, Mayor, for all of your efforts, all the community partners for all that you do for this effort. And I'm looking forward to having this be a successful fund. Thank you.
This ordinance will be on the agenda this coming Wednesday.